All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about cuts, right? Different types of cuts that you can use to transition from one shot to another. Now, in order to best illustrate what I'm talking about, I'm going to provide you with two different cuts that might go together, right? Just examples that we'll play with a little bit. So let's say you have this shot.
I remember shooting that shot.
And you want to then transition into this shot. Right. So you have someone talking about a memory of playing basketball, and then you have a shot of that memory of them playing basketball, right? Now, the most straightforward way to go about it is to do a straight cut, which is transitioning everything at the same time, going straight from both the audio and video of the person talking to the camera to the audio and video of the basketball, right? At the very same time. Now that, a straight cut would look something like this.
I remember shooting that shot.
Right? As you can see, the audio and video changed both at exactly the same time.
I remember shooting that shot.
But of course, you don't have to do that, right? With editing software, you can play with the audio and video however you like. Now, the two most common other types of cuts between the two are called L cuts and J cuts. And I'll get to why they're called that in just a moment. But with an L cut, the video changes before the audio, right? Like this.
I remember shooting that shot.
As you can see, the video changed before the audio, which meant that the video transitioned to the playing basketball before the audio narration stopped, which meant that you still heard some of the narration underneath the image of playing basketball.
I remember shooting that shot.
Now, the reason that that's called an L cut has to do with what editing software looks like on a computer screen, right? So editing software typically has two different timelines stacked right on top of each other. You have the video and then you have the audio, right? The video goes above the audio. Now, if you imagine a capital letter L, right? It starts here and ends here. Now, if you think of where it starts and where it finishes, think about a timeline, right? And timeline's going this way. So if it hits here, that is when the video changes, right, on top. And then here later on is where the audio changes, a little bit down below, right? And so if you imagine a capital letter L and a timeline going like this, it'll transition with the video and later transition to the audio, right? And that's why it's called an L cut. It's because the video transitions first. We'll show it again.
I remember shooting that shot.
Now, of course, it could go the other way, right? Instead of starting here and going there with an L, you could go a J cut. You could do a J cut, which looks like this, right? Where you would, the letter J starts here and ends here. But what that means in a timeline is that you hit the audio transition before you hit the video transition. Now, a J cut would look something like this.
I remember shooting that shot.
Notice how the audio transitioned into the sound of bouncing the basketball before the video transitioned away from the close-up. So you heard dribbling while you still saw his face, right? I'll show it to you one more time.
I remember shooting that shot.
You could do that, right? Those are probably some of the most common ways that you can transition from one scene to another. You could also, do what's called like intercutting, which is going back and forth, right? Essentially a lot of small cuts in order to make the transition from one to the other. It feels a little bit more disjointed and a little bit more chaotic, right? Like it's not kind of a smooth, calm memory, like it's almost like intruding upon your psychology. Now, something like that would look like this.
remember shooting that shot.
And of course, you can do all sorts of different things. You could intercut just the video and not the audio. You could do the other way. You could do a combination of both. You could throw J cuts and L cuts in the middle of intercuts. But those are just different ingredients that you can use to cut between one scene and another. And I hope this has been helpful. Thanks.